Hey friend, I hope you're doing well. If this is your first time here, then hello, my name is Danielle, and I created this channel as a way to document my no buy year, which began in December of 2021 and will be extending throughout 2022. And on this channel, I also share all of my Project Pan content. So if any of that interests you, then I hope that you'll consider subscribing. This video is going to be the fourth update for my Pan That Palette projects. I am panning ABH Soft Glam in the traditional kind of sense, and I also have a Pan That Palette in Order project going, and for that project I am panning Norvina in order according to the palette. In case you're interested in seeing the rules that I have set for these projects, I'm going to link that intro somewhere, as well as the playlist that I have created for my Pan That Palette project. So then you can check out from the beginning how my progress has been going so far this year. But assuming that we're all caught up, I'm just going to go ahead and get on into it. And I'll start out with Soft Glam. So here's what the palette was looking like last month. And here is how it is looking now. So I have some pretty exciting progress in this palette this month. I'm really excited about the progress that I've been able to make. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through one shade at a time per usual. So we'll start off with Tempera. Again, this is the shade that had the most progress beginning this project, and it is still the shade with the most progress, although we have another one that is really catching up here. My goal for Tempera this month was to clear out the top half of the pan, and I have been able to do that. I used it 11 times this month to make this progress, and my goal for this upcoming month is to clear out this bottom left-hand corner and start to make progress on wearing down the bottom right hand as well. I do really enjoy using this shade as both a brow highlight and an inner corner highlight, so I don't want to use it up really too quickly, but I'm low-key hoping that I can have it emptied out by the end of July or my August update. So we'll see if I'm able to do that, but that's kind of the track that we're on right now. So I'm excited about that, and I'm encouraged. It makes me feel a lot better about the possibility of actually emptying out this palette this year. There's hope because it's happening in Tempera as we speak. Next is Glistening. My goal for this one was to use it 3 times this month, and I was able to use it 4 times. There also has been quite an expansion in pan, so again, very exciting. My goal is to be focusing in a bit more on glistening this month. I have a new group of focus shades. Some of them are going to be the same and some of them are going to be different. And I'll kind of, share that as we go through and recap at the end. But glistening is going to be one of those shades. I would like to make significant progress in glistening by the end of the summer. Next, we have Orange Soda, and my goal for this month was to get a good dip going in there, and I would say that we're getting there now. I used it 9 times this month, and my goal for next month is to hit pan. So this is going to be another one of my focus shades for the upcoming month. And this is another one that I would like to make significant progress on by the end of summer. So I'm anticipating using this one in as many looks as I can in the upcoming months. Next we have Rose Pink, and I did have a pretty ambitious goal last month to clear out the entire top half of the shadow, and I got very close but didn't quite make it there. I did make some really good progress in this shade though, and I'm excited about the future of this shadow. I have really been enjoying using it as kind of an all over crease shade, or even kind of like a blending out shade for some of the deeper mattes. So that has been kind of fun to discover about this shade, the versatility of it, even though the formula isn't necessarily my favorite. Rose Pink isn't going to be one of my focus shades this month, but it's one that I do anticipate using a fair amount. And in doing so, I would like to finish out clearing this final top corner here and then begin to again wear down the bottom just like tempera. Rose pink is one that I found can go really quickly, so I'm interested to see how it will go if I just choose to use it naturally instead of focusing on it. I think it will pair with a couple of the shades that I'm planning to use quite a bit this month really well, so I'm anxious to see how that goes. Next we have the shade Sultry, and my goal for Sultry was to hit pan this month, and I did do that. I used it 6 times this month and found a couple of really exciting ways to use it. My favorite way that I found actually was to pair it with a shade in the Divine Rose palette, so I'm really looking forward to continuing to use it that way throughout the rest of the time that it remains in this project. The way that I apply it with that shadow involves a brush, whereas usually I had been using a finger. So I think that is part of what led to this being used up pretty quickly. We have a pretty good sized pan in Sultry going so far, and I'm excited about that. So Sultry is going to be in the group of focus shadows for this next month. Next we have Bronze, and my goal was to use it twice this month and I only used it 1 time. This is another one that I'm going to toss into my focus palette for next month. I'm interested to see how it will go. I do want to start working to hit pan on it, as it is one of only 2 shades in here that I still would like to hit pan on. I'm hoping to have a little bit of a break from some of these pinky looks, so Bronze will be a very nice reprieve, something a bit more grungy like I typically like, so that will be a lot of fun to begin incorporating. Again, I have not used Mulberry, Noir, or Cypress Umber since beginning this project this year, but I am just keeping them in this palette in case I do decide to begin using them later on in the year. They're not ones that I want to finish up by any means, so I'm totally fine with not touching them at all, even through the end of the year if that ends up being the case. So they're just going to sit there, and that's totally okay. But that being said, we're just going to go ahead and move on to the second row here. Dusty Rose is one of my favorite shades in this palette, and it's not one that I want to use up anytime soon. So I only used it once this month, and I'm fine with leaving it at that. It will continue to get used just naturally until I get to a point that I need to focus on it. Next we have Fairy. And my goal was to use it 3 times, but unfortunately I only used it once this month. However, it is going to be in my focus palette for May. I know that it pairs nicely with Bronze, so I'm hoping to begin getting some more use on it there, as well as just using it in some other more golden looks. So if we could start getting some expansion in Pan and Fairy like I have in Glistening, then I would be ecstatic. That would be very exciting. Next we have Burnt Orange. Again, one of my favorite shades in this palette. I didn't have any specific goal for it, but I did use it 10 times. And now that the weather is warming up, I'm guessing that I'll only begin to use it more and more frequently like that. It pairs really nicely with most everything in this palette, so it's a really great one to just fall back on throwing into the mix. We are seeing some expansion in Pan, and I'm guessing that I'll continue to use it pretty frequently. So it's not going to be a focus shade or anything like that, and I don't have a specific goal, but I'm anticipating still using it quite a bit this month. Next we have Sienna. My goal with Sienna was to use it 5 times, and I only used it 3 times. But there is a bit of expansion in Pan going on. It didn't really take a whole lot because it was such a small pan last month, but it is one that I'm going to continue focusing on throughout May. So I'm excited to see what it'll look like in a month's time. And last but not least, we have Rustic. This was another one that I wanted to hit pan on this month, and I was able to do that. I used it 6 times this month, and it's another one that is going to be a focus shade for me this month. It pairs really nicely with Bronze, so I'm anticipating getting a lot of use out of it that way. It's another one of my favorite shades in this palette actually, so I'm excited to continue working on it. It'll be a great one for summer and fall. So that is it for Soft Glam. To rehash, the focus shades for this month will be this little like trio, glistening orange soda and fairy. And then we will have a few others down here. So it'll be sultry, bronze, rustic, and sienna. So there will be 7 this month, which is kind of a weird little number. They aren't exactly right next to each other in here either, but I think that they will all pair nicely together. And like I said, these are ones that I also am really enjoying pairing with the Divine Rose palette. So that's working really well for me to get use on both of those palettes. And now we'll just go ahead and move on to Norvina. So here is what it was looking like last month. And here is how it is looking now. I hope you can see that I was able to hit pan finally in Wild Child. This one was a rough one for me. It's not one that I really enjoyed using at all, so I had to kind of force myself to continue reaching for it. The formula is one that I wasn't crazy about, and the color especially is something that I wasn't super crazy about. I really enjoy some kind of deeper and muckier type of eye looks, and bubblegum pink just really is not that. You might look at this palette and think that none of this is that, but actually some of the undertones in these shadows I find really interesting. So yeah, Wild Child wasn't my favorite. Other than Wild Child, the ones that I'm most concerned about are Soul primarily, and then possibly Celestial. I'll just have to see on that one. Regardless, I'm done with Wild Child, at least for now, until I finally try to like finish this palette. So I can move on to the next one, which is one I'm very excited about. It's Rose Gold, so I'm going to go ahead and swatch it. I can't hold myself back any longer. Okay, I am very excited because not only do I think this is a stunning shade, but also the formula feels much more similar to Summer, which was this little bronze shadow here. Both of them are much more of a traditional kind of metallic formula, it seems. A bit more creamy than like Wild Child especially was kind of more of a flaky and dry type of formula. This one's a bit more creamy, a bit more impactful, a lot more impactful. So this will be much easier for me to use. This comes a bit more just inherent to me in the way that I like to play with color on my eyes. So yeah, very excited for this one. This is one of the ones I was most excited about in this palette, so I'm interested to see how it will go this month. And I haven't been doing this recently, but I do just want to go ahead and swatch the rest of my Focus palette in line next to this. And I may also just throw in Rose Pink. I said that it's not going to be a focus shadow for me, and it won't be, officially. But I'm interested to see what it'll look like in comparison to this, if they would pair well together or not. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch those. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of a mess because it is quite a big color story. But I did go ahead and swatch out my little Focus palette here. I started out by putting Rose Pink above Rose Gold. And I do think that these will work really well together. So I'm very pleased by that. I actually intentionally didn't want to use up Rose Pink so that I could use it with Rose Gold. So very excited to see that I was right about that. Hopefully my opinion doesn't change in different lighting, I guess. But I followed Rose Gold with Sultry because these three are like the closest here in color. But I think it really shows the difference in the formula as well really clearly. Rose Gold just has a different type of foiled look going on. So it definitely is a more updated formula than the Soft Glam formula, which is just a bit less impactful, not as punchy as far as the shimmer goes. Then we have Glistening, Orange Soda, Sienna. After Sienna, we have Fairy, then Bronze, and then Rustic. So we'll still have some of those pinky looks, but they'll be more of the sultry pink looks, which is much more up my alley. And then we'll have some like warm, bronzy looks, which I'm, yeah, really excited about, especially now that we are entering into summer. Very appropriate and will be very fun for this season. And just to show you, here's what Norvina is looking like now that I have swatched out rose gold. Pretty much the same, just that rose gold isn't perfectly pristine anymore. I'm anticipating that rose gold might take me a bit longer to work through, just like summer did. Summer took me not quite 2 months. Wild Child also took me about 2 months. So I'm guessing rose gold will be something like the same. I would not be surprised if this project is a 2-year project. I knew that I would be pushing it to try to finish it by the end of 2022, but it's looking more and more like this is going to take a while, which is totally fine. I know that we're only 5 months into the year and we're on Shadow 4, so we're doing okay. This may just take a bit longer than I had hoped, and that's totally fine. This has been a fun learning experience trying to pan something in order, especially without getting to use the rest of the color story. I can now use these ones that I've already hit pan on, but frankly, I haven't. I've kind of been wearing myself out on the shadow by the time I've hit pan on it, which is really funny. So that's kind of a hurdle I wasn't necessarily expecting. But I'm guessing by the time I get down to these mattes, I'll be much more interested in returning to these matching shimmers. So that will be fun to finally be able to use this palette more as it was intended. Nevertheless, this has been a really interesting and fun project. So I'm excited to see how it continues to go throughout the end of the year and then throughout the rest of this project, however long it lasts. Here also is how Soft Glam is looking now that I just swatched it. I am still really hoping that I can finish this palette by the end of the year, other than these 3 shades over here. The ones that give me hope are, of course, Tempera and Rose Pink. Some of these mattes are just going to take a while, so I'm anticipating that they'll be in for like the rest of the year, especially mattes like Rustic and Sienna. And perhaps even Orange Soda, I'm not sure, but I'm really hoping that I can get some good use on these shades during the summer and into the fall, so that during the winter I can focus more on stuff like Dusty Rose. But we will just see. I'm happy with my progress so far. If you have any predictions about how these palettes are going to go for me, I would love to hear them. And if you are doing a Pan That Palette project, I would love to hear how that is going for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.